Today, we're going to take a look at network mocking in FastBoot tests. And in order to show this, we're going to write a test for this page right here. This is Ember Map's video page, and you can see here there's a lot of data that comes over the network. You know, we've got this video, its title, its description, the summary. All of this is loaded from a network request. If I come down here to this fetch, I can see a JSON API request that loads a bunch of attributes. You can see the slug, the summary, all this data about this video is right here in this payload. So let's go ahead and mock this for a FastBoot test. The first thing I'm going to do is hop over to my terminal and create a new FastBoot test. So I'm going to use a generator and run ember CLI FastBoot test. And I'm going to call this one video page. Now, let's take a look at this test. Here we have the default test that the generator creates. And just to get us started, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to visit that video URL. So I'm just going to copy this right from the production website and paste it in here. And then I'm going to do an await pause test to see what renders in FastBoot. So let's go ahead and focus in on our FastBoot test so we don't have to run the entire suite every time we make a change. And then here we go. We've got our video page test. And right here, just by visiting this URL in FastBoot, we get this page not found error. And this is because if we go back to our production site, if we go ahead and put a video in the URL that doesn't exist, we're going to get this 404 page, the page not found. When the video does exist, we get the video data. So normally, if I were writing, let's say, an acceptance test, and the page was rendering some 404 or just some data I didn't expect, I would open up the DevTools and take a look at the network tab, and I would expect to see something here about requesting this URL that doesn't exist. And this is because this test, it's running in FastBoot. It's not running on our browser. So our browser is never going to make a network request to fetch a video. It's FastBoot that's making that network request. So we don't have any insight into the API requests that are coming out of our FastBoot app. And so this can make network testing and FastBoot tests a little difficult because we don't have that insight. And so to deal with this, what I like to do is I like to start by just copying production or well-known data and then massaging the response. So let me show you, how I would continue to write this test. If we go back to our production site, we can see that we have this URL. This is the URL. Well, actually, you can see there's 3 AJAX requests made. The first is to find the current session. So this is a thing that loads the current user. Now, for our FastBoot test, we're not going to worry about a current user. We're just going to pretend there's no user, so we're going to skip over this one. The next one is a fetch to this clips URL. And again, this is a thing that loads all that video data. And then we have a third request to Twitter. This, I think, puts a tweet button at the bottom of the page. We're just going to ignore this for now. We're not going to test Twitter network requests in FastBoot. So this clips request, this is the one that we're interested in. So what we're going to do is let's first copy this URL. This is the URL that we want to mock. And we want to mock it with this response right here. So back in our FastBoot test, we can see that there's this commented out import called mockServer. And this is going to be the thing that allows us to mock the network in FastBoot. So let's uncomment this. And let me show you how this works. So mockServer provides a bunch of functions for mocking. So we can do mockServer.get, and this is going to take a URL. So I'm just going to paste in that URL that we know our FastBoot app is going to request. And then as a second parameter, there's a JSON response. So let me move these on multiple lines. So the JSON response that we want this URL to return goes here. And I'm going to go back to the production site, and I'm just going to copy this entire response that our production app is returning just to get us started with this test. And I'm going to paste it all in here. And this is ugly and this is hard to read, but we'll address this later. Now, there's one more thing about mockServer. All of its calls are asynchronous, so we have to put an await in front of it. So let's take a look at what this looks like. What happens when we mock this URL in FastBoot? There we go. It looks like our test runner in FastBoot is able to render this. And again, it looks just like our production website because we're using the payload from production. But this is pretty cool. We actually have a FastBoot test that's fetching mock data. So let's go ahead and start to actually write a test. So let's clean up our test a little. Now, the first thing about this is really hard to read. So I'm going to go find a JSON formatter just to clean this up. Paste this in. And I'm going to copy this. And let's delete this old response. Now let's do a quick save and make sure our test is still rendering. All right, this looks good. Everything's still rendering. Let's try to play with this data. Let's change the video's title. Let's say this is a test video. Pretty cool. This is a test video now shows up. Now, since we're just writing a test here, we don't need this big, long summary. So let's go ahead and change this and say the video summary would go here. All right, pretty cool. So now we have our mock server in FastBoot able to reply with data for our FastBoot tests. So now that we're able to send this, this fake video down, let's go ahead and write a test against it. So after the network request is made, let's use assert.dom, and we will test that this video's title shows up. So I believe this has a data test ID. It does. It has a data test ID of title. So we'll use assert.dom. Data test ID title, and we'll say it has text. And what did we say? It was this is a test video. So we'll do this is a test video. Now if we uncheck hide past tests up here, we can see that our assertion passed. And we still have our pause test, so we can see that everything's rendering correctly. So this is pretty neat. We can remove our pause test, and we should have a green test suite. Very nice. Now there's one more thing I want to clean up here. The test name is it renders a page. Let's say, test it renders the correct video title, since that's what this test is testing. Okay, great. So this is a gist of network mocking in FastBoot. We use the mock server to tie a URL to a response, and any network requests that leave FastBoot that match this URL, this response will be returned to our FastBoot instance. So hopefully this video has given you some ideas for how you can start adding network tests into your FastBoot applications.